Okay, everybody, we're going to be working with Android Studio and creating an app that will store contact information in a SQL database. So we want to get started with setting the project up. I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration of what this thing is going to be like when we're finished. So what you see here on the screen is, and this part in here, is the screen capture of the Android device that has the basic app working with it. Not too splashy or anything like that, but it's called My Contact App, and you can store name, phone numbers, and addresses to it, add contacts to the database, you can view them, and then you can search them. So for example, if I were to search my contact list currently, or just look through my contact list, I have one data entry or one record in there with the first ID, and just this is the contact information. Okay, so I can then add some additional names in here. So for example, if I wanted to add Joe or something, and his phone number is this, and his address is 678 Cypress Street or something like that, and I can add that and add it to my contacts. It gives me a little message called a toast message. It tells me I was able to add it. Then I can view it, and now I've got the two records in here. So I had my original one, and then I had my new one I just added. I can come off of that, and then I can search for a record. For example, if I wanted to search for, go back here and I say I want to search for Tom, for example. Okay, I know Tom is in my database somewhere, and I want to search for him. And what this will do is show me the record associated with Tom. And if I had multiple ones in there, it would show me all of the Toms that I had in my database. Okay, so this is what we're going to get started on. Again, a pretty simple one to start with, but there's a lot to it with Android Studio. I will, in class, I'll show you a little bit about how the basic flow works when you are creating an activity and you're moving between screens and things like that. But for now, let's get a basic app up and running. So you want to launch Android Studio. You should have 3.1.2 installed. If you're using an older version, that's fine. I think everything will work with it. But if you're debugging some weird thing, sometimes it requires that you need the latest versions with the latest libraries. Okay, so we're using 3.1.2. You want to start a new Android project, or if you're already in a project, you can say close to the current project, and then you'd say file new and new project. So, or you get from the screen, you say start a new project. Okay, and then I want to name it, so I'm going to call it my contact app, and I guess I'll call it to, and I'm putting it right on my desktop. So you should put it put it in the folder that you have your repository set up. So you had a GitHub repository set up with the SQLnotes, I think it was called. Set that up, and then you hit next. It's going to ask you what API you want to use. Let's do KitKat. So you do the pull down menu. I don't know what yours will default to. Probably something less than that or earlier. We want to set it up to do KitKat. The phones that we have the that Android operating system installed on it. So we do that. The rest of them we leave. We only want to have the phone and tablet checked. The rest of the stuff we don't need checked. Hit next. We want an empty activity, so there's all kinds of different screens that you can start with, and we'll explore these a little bit later. We want empty activity, and we click next. The activity name, this is the first one. This is kind of like your main method in Java. When we're working with Eclipse, this is called main activity. So every activity is essentially like a screen on Java or on Android. Click, just leave these defaulted, and you click finish. And then you're going to get it's going to set up a environment for you to do your your development with, and we will look at a couple different files. If you don't have a phone right now, you want a phone, you want to have that plugged in with a USB. It takes a micro USB on the phone side or the tablet, and then you plug into the computer. When you plug into the computer, you'll likely see something along the lines of that it wants you to accept what's called an RSA key, so that it can do a secure transfer to the phone. So you just go ahead and accept that. We'll talk about this more in class, though. All right, so when you get your app created, so this is the base app, it's basically ready to run, and I'll show you this in just a second, but let's go through a couple different things. You have on the left-hand side a project, like a file browser type thing, just like you had with Eclipse and all the other IDEs. You're going to have what's called the build folder, which are the build system is called Gradle. It has all the build components, and we're not going to mess with these in this project, but in the next one we will. We're more concerned with what's under the app. So this is where all of your source files are. In particular, we want to look at the Java stuff in here. There is a couple different folders in there dealing with like manufacturing and test if you're going to release this on the Google Store or the Google Play Store. But what we want to do is we want the first one that has the main activity, and we want to open that up. It should be open anyway. It's open there. Where this activity main.xml file is, that's going to be located in the resource folder, the RES folder. If you look under layout, it'll have activity main there. This will represent the screen of your device. And right now, if I zoom this in a little bit, what we see is that it has a screen here, and then it has kind of like a layout thing. It looks like almost like a negative of it. Right now, it just sets up with this message, right? Hello world. And you can put down buttons and things like that. This is if you had some experience with MIT App Inventor. It's kind of similar to that, but it's a lot more powerful than just putting little blocks down and connecting them up. So I'll show you how this will work in just a few. Under main activity, we have what's called the onCreate method. This is like the first method that gets launched, and again, I'll show you a flow on this in class, but this is the main method that will launch when the main activity launches, when you launch your app. So you launch your app, main activity fires up, and then onCreate gets executed. Okay. The last thing I want to show you is under manifests in the project. It's called Android Manifest XML. This has, if I open this guy up, information about your app, and again, we'll have more interaction with this when we look at the Google Map stuff. But for now, it just kind of tells us what the IDs and the content of this. It has to do with identifying your application if you were to publish it, say, on the Google Play Store or something like that. Okay, so again, we're not going to play with this too much on this in this project, but we will in the next one. Okay, so main activity is the main one. All right, so just to test this out, to see if you have connectivity to your device, what we can do is we can launch this thing. And so I'm going to, let me take a look and see if I can move this around so we can see the phone, or at least my screenshot of the phone here too. Okay, so here's my screenshot of the phone. And I'm just going to get out of this thing. So I'm going to swipe this out. So I'm going to kill this app. And then I'm going to try to load this thing into the phone. So in Android, you can just push the play button. So you push this button here. And what should come up is a listing of the devices that you have connected. So if you have like the phone connected, it'll say like ZTE speed or something like that on there. I have a Motorola phone connected. If you have the tablet, it'll say a Nexus tablet. And if it says like offline or something like that, then it's not yet connected and you haven't seen that little RSA key message that would require you to do that so you can do a secure download to it. So I'll need to help you with that if you're not able to get connectivity. But if you see the one of the devices there, you click on OK, And then what happens is the phone will start building, and I'm going to look at the down at below. You can see there's a build screen, and then this one called Logcat we'll look at pretty closely. And so it's building just like with it does with Eclipse. It builds. It takes longer to build the Android app, so it's building it. First time through, it'll build for take a while to build it. It'll say that it's there's a message here that says installing APKs. So you'll see this at the bottom. I'm gonna pull the screen down just a little bit so we can see it. Yeah, so it says installing APKs, and then it says launching activity. And then on your phone, you should see something like this. And this was just that little message that came up in our activity main. And let's see if I can get this over. This was our activity main XML. So all of the screens are developed using XML. If you know XML, that's great. If not, you can use the kind of drag and drop method to put your buttons down. But we can also look at the text associated with this, and if you know XML, and we'll actually play around with this a little bit to modify your code directly. Okay, so there's a design panel, and then there's a panel where if you just want to program it in XML. All right, but what we should see on our screen is this My Contact App 2 2018, and then Hello World. And if I look at that again on my screen, I see it. There's the banner of my app. And then here's my Hello World, and this is on the screen currently. All right, so this is the phone screen that you should see your app with. All right, so I'm going to end this video here. This is the first one just to get up and running with a phone with a very basic app. The next videos will show a little bit more with what we're going to be doing with our database stuff.